to utilize. Now I would like to turn to Mr. Victor Kipiani, who is a chair of the Geocase think tank. I've known Victor for more than 20 years probably now. We met through America-Georgia Business Council, and his advocacy activities on behalf of different businesses and different organizations. He has more than 2 decades of practicing law in Georgia and other countries, and he's always on the right side when he takes the case. So that's very important for a lawyer. But last couple of years, he's very proactive in also. He entered the world of think tanks in Georgia, and now some of his thinking and writing actually penetrates other parts of the world as well, including the United States. So I welcome him, and Victor, your thoughts.
Thank you, Mamuka. Thank you for your nice introduction, and thank you for inviting me to participate. Well, obviously, the end of the Cold War, the continued occupation, and the pandemics have created many extremely, as we say, new normals and brain teasers in regional international relations and securities. Many important questions remain unanswered, and the historical unpredictability of our close neighborhood clearly show how the security of this nation is vulnerable. Once again, in a very short span of time, we are witnessing, if you will, a new wave of creative destruction, which brings to the fore the need for in-depth appraisal and some readjustments as well. Some of these already existing threats, or the threats which are re-emerging, will definitely create new opportunities, not just new challenges. And in this very brief presentation, I would rather sum up those whose impact and priority seem to me the most important. To start with, this country is on the front line of the conflict between two normative worlds, if you will, a meta conflict. One is of freedom and democracy, and another is that of oppression and revisionism. And when we ask ourselves what we need to bring up the resilience of Georgia, the very first response which comes to my mind, and not just to my mind, but generally, it's working out and putting into place an effective policies capable of containing hybrid warfare. The latter is an existential threat for Georgia, but it's also a challenge for the United States and for the NATO, who also need to equip themselves with a modern system for rapid situational assessments and timely reactions to the hybrid threats. But what concerns me, and it becomes understandably quite a big question, when it comes to the issue how to protect those partner nations who are not formal members of the alliance, but in one way or another are linked, connected with the alliance. And that's indeed the issue. Beyond this large-scale geopolitical picture, Georgia is also on the front line of the friction between two regional hegemons, Russia, the occupying power, and this growing regional suddenness of Turkey. Besides, a new stage of the conflict between Armenia and Azerbaijan, which, to my view, very much resembles the proxy war. And definitely, those taken all together, they're worsening the regional quagmire and requiring from us sort of, new creative approaches. As if this was not enough, a further challenge is a shift of balance, as distinguished speakers have pointed out, is a shifting balance of power in the Black Sea region. Definitely, Georgia is not just a patch of land between Black Sea and Caspian Sea, but it's at the crossroads where the Eurasian poles of the West, Russia and China, come at loggerheads. We must also not lose sight of the fact that Georgia's location is both the reason for its security concerns and the source for its economic growth. Same time, by itself, the Black Sea region is an arena for competition over influence, access, and information. And therefore, my appeal to this nation and to our partners that what we require at this point, not the strategic patience, but strategic persistence. And that is very important. I believe that progressive US shift towards a more extended form of deterrence in the Black Sea region would be a sort of in a timely response to those who are still the hostages of the somewhat prevalent Senkaku paradox, or who mistakenly believe that the enemy of my friend is not necessarily my enemy. And that is very important to remember. I would also pay attention to the Secretary Pompeo's statement on the inadmissibility of a closed South China Sea. And that restriction should equally apply to the Black Sea and Black Sea region. Besides, I believe that opening in a very near future a NATO Excellence Center in Batumi would send a strong signal that Georgia ranks among vital interests of its strategic partners. The next source of concern is our proximity to the Middle East. The latter will obviously continue a focus of United States interests and policies, but the recent discussions about readjusting those policies could eventually take us to reconsidering the role of Georgia and probably identifying a new additional role, which is, if you will, a safety locker of Western interests in the Black Sea, Caspian region, and beyond. I believe this could be a good fundamentals, good premises to build on a qualitatively new stage of our relationship and our strategic partner. And I also believe that that signature outlook would be very much in line and consistent with US national security strategy and US national defense strategy. Those papers speak expressively about building up a deterrence in Europe and the Middle East. And I also trust the new conceptual security paper that the Georgian National Security Council is working on would provide for adequate assessment of national and regional threats, as well as for some good solutions and forward-looking statements. And the last concern, which from my perspective, which relates to the 2000 conflicts in Georgia, which are essentially are not ethnic conflicts, but are geopolitical conflicts. And the nature of that geopolitical nature is precisely because of the fact that this nation has made its foreign policy choice, and because of the fact that the occupying power is opposing to this choice. So I'm getting close to my to the end of my speech, and hopefully I managed, to sketch out, some of the challenges, but opportunities as well. I believe that more than any of our neighbors, we strive to be democracy and safety, place of safety, not just for our own people, but for our allies. And I think, that consensus is readily identifiable both among the country's political elite and at the very grassroots level. And finally, just sort of, reusing a small part of one of history's famous speeches, this nation shed blood, sweat, and tears for its monumental toil to maintain a freedom of choice. And that choice must be recognized at its true value. Georgia punches well above its weight, and the greatest pain would be not to suffer, but suffering in vain. So thank you very much, Mamuka. Thank you, dear speakers. And I would, of course, be very much delighted to answer any of your questions. Thank you.
Thank you,